Looks like we're live.
We're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Engineering Gals Women History Month, Men for Women in STEM Live. We have an amazing panel here. So I am going to be your host, moderator. My name is Chloe the engineer. I am a civil engineer in Los Angeles, and I'm excited to be here. So let's introduce our panelists. So let's start with Dr. Corey Grayson.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Corey with a K, not a C. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Michigan in chemical engineering, where my research is based on targeted drug delivery for different disease models like lung inflammation as well as cancer. I did my PhD in biomedical engineering at Cornell University, and I did my bachelor's in chemistry at Norfolk State University, which is an HBCU, or historically Black college university in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm a huge STEM diversity advocate and just passionate about increasing, underrepresented minorities in STEM. And I'm excited to be a part of this panel today.
Awesome. V?
Hi, I'm Vishakha, also known as V or Queen V. I'm a computer science major at the University of Houston downtown. I'm also a tech startup founder, former, and I'll be starting as a cybersecurity professional in June. I'm also a model and influencer and an OnlyFans girl, and I love the intersection of all of that. Just anything tech related and empowering others.
Great. Okay, Andre.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Andre. I also have a YouTube channel that's related to STEM. I highlight a lot of different women and men that's also engineers and have side hustles. I'm an electrical engineer. I currently work in General Motors out in Detroit, Michigan, where I mostly work on the electric vehicles and the battery pack. I'm a battery pack validation engineer. And I'm from Prairie View A&M. That's pretty much the school I went to out in Houston, Texas. It's also a HBCU.
Fantastic. Eduardo?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so my name, Eduardo. I'm from Orange County, California, and I'm a mechanical engineer, attended Chico State, and I'm very passionate about all things automation. So I have my own startup as well, Loomis Automation, and I'm working into bringing more women into the workplace and helping women, be a part of our team. And I also host Women in STEM Wednesdays on my Instagram channel. So yeah, I'm a passionate individual about helping women.
Great. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Kevin.
Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Jada Bruhn. I'm a former NASA rocket scientist turned space educator. So I was working at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California for a few years as a flight systems engineer, specifically working on the Europa mission. So Europa lander, Europa clipper. If you don't know, Europa is a moon around Jupiter, best place to find aliens, tiny little microbes in our own solar system, besides on Earth. And then I fell in love with educating people about space. So I left and started my own space education company. I create videos. I have a YouTube channel, a place called Space. I teach space camps all around the world, in Korea specifically every summer, and around the United States. And then I consult with a couple media companies as their like resident rocket scientist. Whenever anything exciting in space happens, I'm their go-to person. And on Instagram, I do something called Takeover Tuesday, where every Tuesday I either have a person of color or a woman take over my Instagram stories to share their message on my platform. So I'm doing what I can to help raise up the women and minority voices using what I've got.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here. So I just want to take a moment really quick to issue a trigger warning. This event does contain information about sexual assault and or violence, which may be triggering to survivors. So just want to take a moment to issue that. So now we are going to talk about a few definitions so that if you didn't already know, when they are brought up during this live, you know what we're talking about. So do you panelists want to go over some definitions?
For sure. Go with the first one. So based off the ones that we have listed, we have HBCU, PWI, and MI. So HBCU is historically Black university. Second one is predominantly white institution. And the last one is minority institution. Is that right, Corey? And the next one is BIPO, which is Black, Indigenous, people of color. That was the last one. Going into the next one, take over.
So LGBTQ plus is lesbian, gay, bi, transsexual, and queer. The plus also includes intersex, asexual, and other different identifiers. And with the next definitions, we're including this because I think it's important to note that female is regards to gender, woman or women is in regards to, or one's regard to gender, one's regards to sex. And everything in women is regarding what you identify as, female is regarding the sex.
And so that brings in pronouns. And so people can identify or go by different third-person pronouns. And so you have the gender binary ones, which as you can see in my name, she, her, he, him. And they also have gender neutral ones. And so those are they, ze, and them, and then their plural forms. And so you will see different ones in usually the bio or on the name of some person, and that's just the gender pronoun or gender neutral pronoun that they prefer to go by.
Fantastic. Okay, so I think we can get into the meat of the panel now. So for the first question, what is the purpose of Women's History Month and the Men for Women in STEM Live and the importance of having this discussion? So anyone can take it away.
Yeah, so I think, so the purpose of Women's History Month is specifically because there has been a lot of erasure just in general with history, specifically in the United States. A lot of people don't know this, but the education and the textbooks of each state is determined by the state's government's Board of Education. So I live in Texas, so the Board of Education decides what the students learn from the get-go in elementary school. In that, the state governments can decide what they want to teach and what they want to erase. And a part of that is that women have for centuries not been excluded from the narrative with history specifically. And specifically in STEM, they have been excluded from the narrative as we've been educated so much in the past couple of years about how, specifically with COVID, right? There's like so much, and in medicine, there's so much that women have done, but we just don't know about it. Or that there have been people who have tried to take credit for different women, marginalized women's work as well. So Women's History Month is just there to kind of start the conversation and just remind people that this is something that we should all be aware of.
Anyone else have anything to add, especially maybe one of the men in the group? What do you think about Women's History Month?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. When I hear that, what comes to mind for me is celebrating the women in my life and other women and toting their accomplishments, right? Making it known on a wider scale of the amazing thing that the women have done in the history of the world and the country and like currently what's going on. Like just in, I would say like the last year alone, I have just become aware of so many more amazing women individuals, specifically because of Engineering Gals. Like I found the page, I followed, and every time they post a here's a woman instead, I'm like follow. I'm like trying to grow that community. So when I hear Women's History Month, it's just, I focus on the women in my life and try to push them up, but like just thinking about it, I don't just do that this month, right? It's not like only this month do we celebrate women. This is just a dedicated time for us to try to get other people enlightened more or exposed more, where we all have a specific direction that we're taking with this month. It's like, okay, let's plan, focus, and then execute this for this month, and hoping that it executes continually throughout the year, and then we ramp it back up. So this is a year to essentially, for me, to springboard off again the reigniting of proclaiming women in STEM and women in the world. And then as it fizzles out, sadly, as it does with any event, then here we go. We're roaring again and coming back into it. So I see it as a yearly way to just stoke the fire in promoting women.
Yeah, I love that about stoking the fire. So it's hopefully when you're throwing it out there that maybe hopefully there's lots of people who are like you, Kevin, and want to lift up the women in their life, period, all year round. But if we can just pull in a few more groups of people during this month to do so the rest of the year, then we'll keep pushing. Okay, so I think that kind of leads into the next question, which is, what is gender diversity like in your classroom or workplace, and what are your thoughts on it? So we have panelists from all different, professional areas, students, everything. So I'd love to hear from a bunch of you on this.
Sure, I can start. So yeah, I since the start of my career, there hasn't been much diversity in my teammates as an engineer. So yeah, I've always been the brown guy, and that's just from a personal standpoint. But you realize even more that there isn't women in my team at all, and so yeah, there isn't much diversity, and now that I'm starting my own company, I am reaching out to more women. I want to have them in my team, and doing these type of lives, I hope I can be able to reach to some women, and maybe they reach out to us and help us become a more diverse team. So yeah, it's been fairly male dominated my whole career, and it's been about 7 years, and I haven't had a woman in my team.
Yeah, that's, I would actually like to continue on with that. So I mentioned earlier that I am a former tech startup founder. So the whole way that happened was I was a music major before I switched into computer science, but I knew how to code. I knew how to do things thanks to being and having a love of social media. I learned how to code on Tumblr. But then they saw that and they're like, okay, cool, a woman who knows how to code, like she can build websites, she can build apps, whatever. And they're like, cool, we want a grant for a woman. We want a national grant that is for a team with a woman on it. So we're going to hire you. And they literally told me that from the get-go. You're getting hired because you're a woman and we need a woman CTO. And I was grateful for the opportunity. I was 19. I took it, and halfway through the accelerator that we were in, the person who hired me ended up being incredibly, incredibly sexist, completely cussed me out on Slack channels in front of the entire accelerator. And then when I brought this up to the people who were running the thing, they were just like, okay, what can you do? I was like, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm just going to leave. So it was funny because I got the opportunity because I was a woman, but then I lost the opportunity because I was a woman. So I think that specific experience really highlights what it is like and what having microaggressions in STEM can be like. It can, yes, people are like, oh, you're going to get the job because you're a woman. You're going to get the job. That's a microaggression too, because they're just saying you're only getting this because of your gender. And then once you're there, they're going to be like, okay, you're just here now. You're just here now. And that's really unfortunate. Also, in addition, because we're talking about microaggressions and harassment, I've had not one, but two professors harass me at two different universities. So one of them grabbed my breasts in class in front of the entire class on a Hindu holiday, which was crazy, like our Christmas. It's called Diwali. But it was on that day, and there were less students in class because it was the holiday. I ended up coming for a quiz, and then I went up there to say, hey, I need to leave for this thing, and he grabs, and it was ridiculous. And then I transferred schools, and the first semester that I went to this other school, a professor stalked me and followed me to Denver, like on a trip, and announced to the entire class that he was single and he wanted to take me out. And so he got fired pretty immediately because the entire class was a witness to that. But yeah, being a woman in STEM is far much more than what we see in the workplace too, especially since I'm the only one who's an undergraduate still. But to think that I was like 19, 20, 21 years old when this was all happening, and even professors don't look at female students, and give them enough respect to treat them and teach them in the way that they are literally paying. Like, I can't tell you that I lost money. I lost that entire semester of money because I refused to step back on campus. I was like, I'm not walking back onto this campus. I refuse. and I lost thousands of dollars, and it sucks. But yeah, being a woman in STEM and facing microaggressions and harassment is so much more than just, harmless things. It can be harmless things, and the harmless things are the ones that get highlighted the most because they happen more often. Because with women, whenever they tend to say something in the workplace or in the professional realm, they get blacklisted, right? It's like, okay, she said something about how this happened. People are going to be like, okay, she must have done something wrong. She must have done something wrong, right? I'm sure people may be listening to this right now and be saying, oh, she must have done something wrong. That's happening often. Nope, this doesn't just happen to me. This happens to many women, dozens of women. And it's actually one of the reasons why I prefer to work remote, because I don't have to be in an office with people who look at me differently. And ever since being remote, thanks to COVID, I've had such success in my career just because there have been no distractions. And I'm really grateful for that.
Gotcha. I wanted to say something real quick. So something else as far as getting into specific industries, going into different routes as far as companies that you actually want to go into, something that's really big that you should ask to a recruiter or, just follow up with people about. It'll be good, if you're a woman and you're trying to get into this specific company, you could say, how many women are in the area where I'm going to go work, or not even specifically the department, but let's just say like the whole floor or the whole section where you're going to go as far as like moving up the ladder. Because I mean, that's what it's really going to come down to. If you don't see anybody past like the first level, second level, that speaks volumes as far as exactly how far you're going to go. So I feel like that's something you definitely need to, check up on, ask about. Because I mean, I've been in different industries. I've been in oil and gas. I've been in tech. I'm in the automotive right now. And when I was in oil and gas, it was literally, I'll say about 5 women on a whole floor. And like, just thinking about like, if I was a woman just going straight into it, clearly like things won't be as smooth, me being like one woman in a whole entire department. If I say there's 5 on the entire floor, right? So that's something that I would definitely want to check in on. Versus General Motors, it's like a totally different atmosphere. Like that's something that I was kind of shocked at coming to GM, especially with it being like a vehicle company, right? It's a lot of women in high powers. Like it's 30-year-old women that's like 8th level engineers, EGMs, and it's like, dang, like are literally out here killing it. So that's just something I really want to throw out. Definitely, just see how far up women are going in a department that you're going to go into. Like that's really, really big, because you don't want to, there's a lot of people that say, you don't get raises, you don't get certain checks as far as coming into the force, like straight on. There's a lot of things you really need to check into before you actually get there. Invest all of your time, hard work. I mean, if you're working extremely hard and you feel like the person next to you is literally skipping levels, it's something that you're going to just need to definitely have good insight on before you even jump into the role. So that's something that I always get into all the time when it comes to companies and stuff.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. A little bit of feedback. I'm so glad you brought that up. And I also want to add one thing to it, as well as talking about how many women are there and how many women are going high up. What's your turnover rate for women in your company? Why? Because if your turnover rate for women in your company is extremely high, there's something wrong. And she's not on this panel, but I got to throw her out there. Lorena Soriano with Every Point One. That's what she talks about all the time. It's not a pipeline problem. It's obviously a problem within your company. Why are you not keeping your female and minority talent?
I think it has a lot to do with it just being a cyclical problem. Like V said earlier, she got on the team because she was a woman. So they hire you because of your gender, right? I mean, obviously you need some qualifications or else they wouldn't. But again, it's just that one kind of what we call diversity hire or gender hire, right? To meet the quota or the status quo. But then the woman is operating within this. She's received welcome, opening arms, and she feels like she has the support, but then she starts pointing out the issues that's wrong with the company and what's wrong with the system. And so then instead of the company being responsible or taking accountability for how they're treating women or just even minorities or just other people in the company, they point fingers, they blame, they kind of put it on the other person as in like, there's nothing wrong. And then finally you just have this exit where you're just like, I'm tired of this stuff and I'm leaving. And so there's always this kind of exit that happens. And so, I mean, V, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think so many people really do resonate with it. And it's something that is a common occurrence. And a lot of it is perpetrated by men and sometimes women in power that can do stuff, but they don't want to change the status quo. And so even in academia, I mean, I'm in biomedical engineering, which is actually pretty gender diverse. We actually have a decent amount of men and women. Not exactly sure why, but I think it just has to do with a lot of life sciences being incorporated into engineering, but there's still a drop because it's engineering in general. And then on top of that, what I've seen and what I've witnessed is as the higher you go, the less you see women and the less you see women of color that are professors or deans or even presidents of universities. And so it's just a systemic issue that we're constantly trying to figure out why, but also push the university to figure out why. I mean, you brought us here. It's time you actually protect us and make sure that we continue in this pipeline. And so I'm a postdoc now. I don't know how long I'll stay, but if I go in academia, I'll try to keep climbing the ladder just to help those who are coming up behind me.
And thank you for that.
Oh, cool. I love you.
That's amazing. Amazing, amazing. And this actually is like a perfect transition into the next one, which is what does it mean to be a male ally to women, LGBTQ plus, BIPOC in STEM? So Eduardo, if you want to start us off with this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, to be an ally, I think it starts with just being aware and being, look at your surroundings and notice that there is disparity here, right? So for me, it's just natural to want to make a difference. If I see that, there's no diversity here, like I take actions towards it. And really it's just the awareness and talking to people about it, right? For example, my Women's STEM Wednesdays, we talk about stuff like that, where I give women a day where they can go talk about their experiences, and really that's just me trying to make a difference. Never thought I would just be an ally. I think that's just the natural thing to do. Yeah. It's fairly easy for me, I would say. It's just natural to want to make a difference.
Yeah, and I'll follow on that, Eduardo. Like when I hear ally, I think of supporter. And what was going around in my mind just recently, or like right now, was like comparing it to racism. There's I'm not racist, and then there's anti-racism. There's like two levels there where I'm not racist. Okay, yeah, I don't do anything. But the anti-racism is, I think, the level of allyship that we're all at with women in STEM, trying to make the difference. Mm-hmm. So we have allies who are like, okay, I'm not gonna, have microaggressions. I'm gonna be aware. I'm not gonna hire only, because you're a woman. I'm just gonna look at all the candidates equally and just bring it in. And then there's the level of what we're at, and where a lot of other people that we're very familiar are with, mm-hmm. is making that change, is having the Women Instead Wednesdays, like you're doing, Eduardo, having like the Takeover Tuesdays, having this panel, creating engineering gals. So I just kind of wanted to bring up that other level. And I don't know if we have a word for it. If there is, what is above ally to try and make these things happen. So when what does it mean to be an ally? To me, it means, for being a male, specifically a white male, is to take my privilege and use that as an advantage to help other people. That's what I think, for me, being an ally is.
And I just kind of wanted to add, just from a woman's perspective, that for me, having a male ally throughout sometimes different parts of my career has definitely been beneficial. At one point during my career, you could definitely tell that there were favorites. And one of the favorites was definitely a white male. And I think he started to recognize and see, like, okay, she's being treated differently than I am. So he was, more helpful towards me, or was willing to do certain things, or not necessarily advocate on my behalf, but do what he could in his power to make sure that I could at least receive at least some benefit or some, help along the way, which really helped, I think, even as I continued throughout my career. And even now with my PI, I just published 2 papers, and he's on Twitter screaming like, cite her, cite Black women. And so having, him doing that, I think as a male ally. And then I literally just read an article that was by Dr. Stephanie Mockler, was talking about how men can be allies to women. And one of the main things was how women get cut off a lot. And so recognizing when that happens and when your coworkers are doing it and being like, hey, she wasn't done talking, let's figure out what she wants to say, or even approaching her afterwards, like, I'm sorry that they cut you off. Is there anything that I can do, next time? And so I think spotting the microaggressions and the incidences when they happen, and learning, or at least start to try to interject or use your privilege, as you said earlier, Kevin, in order to make sure that that doesn't continue to be perpetuated throughout the work environment, and that you make it comfortable for anyone that enters in that may not have the same privileges.
And even past that, say if something did happen, Corey was mentioning earlier, the cycle of, the early exit of the woman in the workplace specifically. If you see that happen, like that happened with me at the tech startup accelerator that I was at, a male ally who actually became my mentor, he was like, I can't do anything for you here. This is, as far as what he could do. Here's an opportunity. Let me connect you to these people. I then started putting on tech startup competitions at South by Southwest, at 19, 20 years old, because I had a male ally that was like, I want to correct this and help you build your resume past this opportunity. And I think yesterday, Kevin was mentioning how even having women and the hiring process is so huge. Just to have a woman sitting there in front of the table. I think I've only had an interview with one woman ever, and I've had 5 or 6 internships. That's definitely a huge thing as well.
I just want to add as well, so all these are amazing answers, and in my experience, when I've had amazing male allies, mentors, supervisors, everything, but sometimes it's the smallest things that make a huge difference in my career and my life. And I think I always want men to realize that. And one specific example that I can think of, which was a long time ago, but it still sticks with me, is being the only woman in a meeting and one of the project managers giving me a notebook and saying to take notes because, whatever. And my amazing male coworker, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't crazy. It was just him grabbing the notebook and being like, bro, this is your project. You take the notes. And then we just kept going. I didn't have to be the crazy emotional woman saying, why are you making me be your secretary? I didn't have to do any of that. And we kept moving forward. And that man never did that ever again in a meeting. So it was it's the tiniest little actions that make big differences.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
It's all good. We're changing the game.
Was he high up?
He's higher than me, but it wasn't extremely high. Just
sorry, I just don't think that matters. You shouldn't hand off stuff regardless of what position that you're in. No, I'm not planning the office party. No, I'm not going to take notes. Whatever kind of task like that, you figure it out. It's your job, not mine.
True. Yeah, I realize in most companies that I work for, it's usually the higher up people that just feel like they just have all this extra power. It's it's crazy.
Absolutely. Okay, so this actually, we're already talking about it, but we're talking about microaggressions. So what are some microaggressions and harassment you may have experienced as women, LGBTQ+, BIPOC in STEM? How have you corrected it? As a male in STEM, have you seen it, and how have you gone about it?
As I would like to say, I kind of touched on this earlier, but I've had a lot of harassment issues in school and the workplace. But also I am queer. I am very much queer. And I have been told at hackathons, you're going to get a job because you're queer and you're a girl, or they'll say stuff like that. So it's this is also part of the conversation, right? Your feminism isn't feminism if it's not intersectional. So you can support women, but if you don't support women who are also, maybe a Black or Indigenous person of color, by POC, or if you don't support women who are also, identify as LGBTQIA, then you're not really supporting women. You can't just pick and choose which kind of women you want to support. I also say this as an Asian and as an Indian woman. Out of the women in STEM, the biggest majority of them are white and Indian or Asian. So I try to uplift Black, Indigenous, and Latinx women as much as possible in STEM, just because even then, right, like you can say you support women and then you only going to support white or Asian women, and then you won't support any other kind of women. And that's also wrong or not helpful.
And I just want to add to that too. In my opinion, you're not a feminist if you don't support men, because feminism also supports men, and there's microaggressions for men in different industries too. We're specifically talking about STEM and being engineers and PhDs and all these great things that are, male dominated. But there's also areas like I was talking about earlier, like nursing. Nursing is a female dominated field. And when you see those microaggressions about like, oh, I'm going to get the hot male nurse, like that's not okay either. And feminism is supposed to be about, the intersectionality of all people and everyone being equal and everyone getting opportunities. And if you are a man eater or a man hater, I'm sorry, but that to me is not feminism.
You're so right.
For me, microaggressions come from two sides. It's my gender and it's also my race, and even sometimes education-wise. So I've heard, you only hear because you are Black or because, you're just that kind of diversity quota that they're trying to meet. Your degree doesn't count because you went to a Black school, you went to a HBCU. You're a woman, you're really not that smart. But, hearing these things throughout a whole PhD program sometimes starts to really kind of wear on you. But luckily, I have a tribe and a community group that really kind of uplifted me and allowed me to really advocate for myself, even when those microaggressions did happen. So at first, dealing with microaggressions like that, you're angry, you're upset, and then I carry the stereotype of being the angry Black woman. So I have to watch sometimes how I respond. So then, I've learned tricks of the trade and realized like sometimes everyone doesn't deserve your emotion, everyone doesn't deserve your anger. And it's really about hitting them with that professional, this is unacceptable. Why would you ask me that? Like, what was your thought process behind that? Because I want you to hear how dumb you sound when you said something to me like that. So going just through that whole process of dealing with people and their ignorance, and sometimes it may even be kind-hearted, but I've learned that sometimes there's educational moments where we need to have a moment where I need to teach you and read you for filth. And then there's times where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let that go today. I'm just not in the mood. So I think that's really helped preserve my sanity. And it takes a while and it takes practice to deal with stuff like that, especially when it feels like such a what we call microaggression, but it feels macro, right? On a macro level. But I think sometimes knowing what's in place, who is your ally, who you can go talk to, and going up the chain and going to your ombudsman's office or going to HR and, being like, this behavior is unacceptable, regardless of who it is. And, it's something needs to change. And so microaggressions, I never even heard that word until I got to grad school. But now I'm like, I'm an expert. Y'all don't want it. You don't want it with me because I will hurt your feelings. But it takes time, and hopefully those will dissipate as we increase the numbers of women and minorities in STEM and just all over, just in general.
I got a story to share outside of the workplace, like in nature. So I was literally camping with a girlfriend in, where were we? It was in Arizona. What's the place? Arches. There we go. Arches National Park. Outside of it. And there's this guy from Florida who was taking over our campsite, and we were packing everything up. And like, I wasn't driving. I wasn't in the car. I wasn't in the driver's seat, but my car has the license plate, RCKT SCI. So rocket science. And then the border around it is a NASA border. So we're like packing stuff up, and he like is talking with us, and he's talking with my girlfriend at the time. He's like, oh, so is Kevin a rocket scientist? And she immediately looks at him and she's like, why couldn't it have been me? So he saw the car. He saw it was an Audi. He saw the license plate. He saw the border, and immediately put me as the owner of the car and the owner, the employee, of NASA at the time. And she cussed him out. And he was like, it wasn't like he was intentionally doing it. he immediately said, he's like, I didn't even think about that. Like, that's ignorance on my part. Like, I'm sorry. So it was a teachable moment right there, which was really interesting. And like, I wasn't there like to really witness it. I was in the trunk, you know, and then I came up and like into this conversation. I was like, oh, wow. Interestingly enough, 2 months later, we're in Manhattan Beach. I'm actually getting into the driver's seat of the car. And the person parked in front of us is like, oh, does one of you work at NASA? Me and her, does one of you? So just 2 months, completely different stories there. But that was something that was, I don't know, really interesting. And I give her props for just like calling out the guy. But then when, you know, 2 months later we sit in the car, I'm like, that's how it's supposed to go, right? That is exactly how it's supposed to go.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think that's really important, especially when we talk about or we're thinking about being in the workplace and or maybe like events that include, you know, significant others or whatever, families, and building, you know, a stronger connection with their team outside of the workplace. You know, some places do that, and some organizations do as well. But a big part of that is asking people first. And this is kind of something I learned after I learned about pronouns and how we can choose our pronouns based on our identifying. But we should never, I feel like, especially in the workplace, especially with our fields being so important, and a lot of times in STEM, anything that happens in STEM will set a precedent for what is going to happen in the industry, or it's going to be like the history of what happens next. So a big part of that is making sure you ask people first. So like when you meet someone, you can ask them like, hi, my name is Vishakha. What are your pronouns? I go by she and her. You can say that when you're looking at a coworker and their partner. You say, hi, this is me and my partner. Give them a chance to introduce themselves. You know, if there are two women standing next to each other, you don't want to automatically walk up there and assume one of them's their sister and they brought it to work event. Or you don't want to like maybe automatically walk up there and assume that they're together in case it is their sister, you know? So I think maybe like giving people an opportunity to say for themselves what is happening at that moment. And this is again tied into, you know, pronouns and just respecting people in general, just being able to have those conversations and not assume things at all. And it doesn't hurt anyone. A lot of times in STEM as well, we're so educated. We are so educated so much more than other people that we forget that asking a question doesn't hurt us. Asking a question and playing dumb doesn't hurt us at all. It actually helps the situation. It humbles us and it helps us be more accommodating and welcoming to other people. And a lot of times our intelligence can come off as standoffish too. Like I completely understand that. Living in Houston, I go to the University of Houston, which is located in 3rd Ward. So like living in the community, walking around, right? Like I completely understand, you know, like gentrification and everything. People are going to like walk up to us, you know, and assume something. No, like you can just not automatically interject and assume that you know everything. Yes, you know, deducing things makes sense to us and we're very logical, but just asking is very nice.
Yeah, something
Awesome.
like I would say, as far as like somebody say something?
No, go ahead.
Or something I'll say, like as far as the microaggression, like I never experienced, like no one ever told me like, oh, because you got this degree, that's the reason you got X, Y, and Z job. But I feel like in most cases, especially when it comes down to like the top 10, like Fortune 500s, especially, it's like super scarce to see like a Black person that's an engineer anyways. And in most cases, like for somebody to say that, it like majority of people that I was talking to that work for GM like with me, that are Black, that are women and females. Majority of us all had like 3 internships just going into the job alone. And then also it's a guy who's also in tech with me. We like the only 2 people who got into like their rotational program. It's like over 100 people. And both of us have like over 3 internships and have patents into the system. So I feel like in some cases where people could just like, really just toss you to the side and just say, oh, because you have X, Y, and Z degree. In most cases, it's super hard to even get into the door, but people don't even like really look at it like that.
I don't mean to talk a lot, but Andre, you make such an amazing point, specifically about how we're like when you're walking in the door at the first time, you know, even it's not about even just getting to the door and then it gets hard. getting to the door is so hard on its own. Like you don't know how
Get
many
into the door.
stairs people are going to climb into, and you meet someone and you guys might start out at the same entry level position, but they might have walked 3 miles while I might have walked 1 mile, and we just never know.
Right. It was really crazy. One of my friends, we were both interning beforehand, and he was white. He would go to Purdue, and he's a really, really smart guy, worked for NSA, really, really smart dude. Me and him just going back and forth talking about stuff. And it was another guy who was there also, but he was white. His brother got him in, but he didn't have any internships. He was supposed to graduate with us, but he didn't graduate, and like it was just a lot of telltale signs where we was just like, I don't know how you got to this point, but it's just what it is. It is what it is. But like I said, also though, it'll be a lot of people who would just say, "Oh, well, you went to this school, so that's why you got the job." And it's like you don't have a clue. Like, how many stories I didn't heard personally from like other people at work. Literally, people like some people on my team, they would be like, "Oh yeah, like I got in because I know this person, I know that person." How many Black people could you really say, "Oh, I know this person, so I got him in"? It's not a lot at all.
It's so important to other people.
Kind of went out a little bit.
So we're already talking about this in a way, but let's just throw it out there. So the next question would be, what disadvantages do women, LGBTQ plus, BIPOC professionals face in STEM? And what do you guys think the best way that we can go about mitigating them is? So Andre, you were already talking about this a little bit, so I don't know if you want to expand a little bit.
About the disadvantages as far as moving up.
Yeah, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like representation, if you don't see like a lot of people past the second, third level, in most cases, you're probably not going to get to that level unless you probably work 100 hours a week, really. And then it gets to the point to where you're just saying like, it's not fair. I remember when I was out in Silicon Valley, I was working for Intel, and we had like a group discussion. It was some women that was there that was really, really heated because they're like, I literally see her, she just started working here and she's skipping levels past me, and like they was really heated about it. And the lady, she was Black, and the lady that was hired was white. She was just really, really upset about that. But I mean, like I said, in most cases, if you don't like really do your research as far as knowing where you could possibly get to, that's usually what's going to end up happening. If you don't have that support.
Yeah, and Kevin had a little bit of a story about the hiring process and all that, if you want to add that.
Yeah, it kind of goes into like our next question, talking about the systemic inequalities, right? So in all the interviews that I've had for internships at different engineering companies across the country, and then at NASA, and then a couple other aerospace companies, we're all qualified. If you get an interview for an in-person chat, you got the degrees, you got the stuff behind it. And what it mostly is a conversation with the person, your boss, of, do I want to hang out with this person? Do I want to see them every day? Like, am I comfortable with them? And so it plays on both parts of these questions, right? The disadvantage for women, LGBTQ plus and BIPOC is there's less people like that of similarities in the upper management for who are hiring, who are like, I want to hang out with people who are like me, which is what I experienced in all of my interviews except one was with a older white male. Every single one of them was someone who looked like me, just 20, 30 years in the future. And fortunately, I did get hired by the one woman that I interviewed with, which is amazing. She's the best boss that I ever had, Dr. Jackie Green at NASA JPL. She's amazing. Just got to give her a shout out. And then those hiring practices is something that I implemented, right? So I was hiring interns, and I'm having conversations with people that I want to hang out with, but I have the mentality of being an activist ally for women in STEM. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to hang out with you because I'm comfortable with everybody. So one of the systemic issues is we need to bring in more people that are diverse, that are all over the place, so that we can elevate them to management. So that's the second one, get them up into management, so that then we can have people who aren't just thinking, I want to hang out with people who look like me, which is sadly too common that I've experienced in almost all of my hiring processes.
Absolutely. And I think in my experiences as well, you know, there's stigmas that go along with it that sometimes hurt specifically for women in engineering and STEM. In my experience is, you know, not having women in upper management and not being able to find upper management women mentors. When women talk about that, well, from my opinion, I can't speak for all women, but a lot of women speak about that because it's not that we have to have, you know, a woman mentor. I've had amazing male mentors, but some of the stigmas do hold us back, right? So, you know, some of my male mentors or male colleagues might not feel comfortable going to a one-on-one lunch with me because of stupid, you know, rumors that can start or people saying crap about that. But two women going to lunch, no one's going to start anything, whether it's management and a younger engineer, anything. So sometimes breaking those stereotypes and stigmas, you know, it's not that I don't want to have a male mentor. It's that sometimes there's too much bullshit to get through with a male mentor.
For some reason, I've only had male mentors until I started my journey as a tech influencer. And now, I mean, like Corey is someone like I consider like a big sister at this point, but like other people are like, I've really found mentors through these unconventional ways, specifically social media, specifically networking at conferences like Grace Hopper or South by Southwest. Conferences are so helpful. Those women have become my mentors. I was so grateful to be referred for an internship through social media, through the amazing Civica, at Civica, Seveca. She's amazing. And she continues to only try to refer and uplift marginalized people into her company as well. So that's like so important too. If you're not being able to, if you're not finding the support that you need in your community directly, there are so many other places. Eventbrite has like so many online events that you can go out to and just network and meet people. There's so many things like that, just like Engineering Gals.
And I think it's also important for us to kind of realize what kind of mentors we need in our life. You can have a career-based mentor, you can have like a life mentor, you can have, you know, just different people that can help you, a speaking mentor, whatever it is you want to pursue. And then also having sponsors. So sponsors are people that are going to actually help you get through the doors in whatever industry that you kind of want to pursue. So they're actually, like Civica, referring you for an internship. They're making sure that you are getting the necessary needs in the workplace in order to move up into the next level. And then, you know, so it comes with choosing and picking. My PhD mentor, white male, Mike, love him to death. But, you know, I wanted something different. And so I chose my current mentor, Lola, and she's a Black, proud Nigerian woman. And so it's just different to have that kind of, you know, mentorship. I remember we spent like 5 minutes on a call one time talking about a twist out. I couldn't do that with Mike per se. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. But, you know, I could talk to her about hair. She's got these long, beautiful locks, and we have just that relation towards each other. But she's also helping me with trying to get through and applying for grants and my writing style and working on projects the same way Mike did. But they're just two different people that have filled two different needs. And so I think mentorship is very important. Finding a sponsor is very important. And then taking like any advice from everyone on this panel, because I know everyone's posting wonderful stuff on their pages, and just using that, implementing it, you know, for your growth and continue to strive in STEM. I mean, I know sometimes we talk a lot of stuff about it being so hard in STEM, but, you know, we're all here because we love it and we're all doing great things in it. And so there's so much growth and potential and opportunity to just really change the future. And we're just trying to make it better for everyone else so you don't have to go through the same thing.
Corey brought up such an amazing point about finding and creating a lifestyle and mentors and a life that works for you. So not only am I, you know, queer woman of color, but I'm also disabled, like neurodivergent. I have like severe bipolar disorder, amongst other like many mental illnesses that have made it very hard for me to, in addition, you know, with the assault and everything, not dealing with that with these mental illnesses or something else as well. But working from home and finding mentors like the ones I mentioned before who understand that these are my needs and then helping me create a life that I can live with. So as, you know, like a disabled person, working from home is a blessing, is the biggest blessing that I could have ever, I didn't even ask for it. But being in STEM and being in these fields that allow us to craft the life that we want and that we need for us is going to uplift so many marginalized people past even genders, past even sexualities. Like disabled people have been at, you know, so far behind, and they can't own more than $2,000 in their bank account. They can't, like, they need to have someone in charge of their life half the time. Like, it's terrible. But with these fields and how accessible they are, now it's going to help people who need accessibility. And I'm so grateful and excited about that.
You all are really already going into the next question. We're talking about mentors and all of that. But let's just throw it into the mix so that the audience knows. So we're talking about what are some ways we can support equality for women, LGBTQ+, BIPOC in the classroom and the workplace. Eduardo, I think you had a little story to throw into the mix.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think about different things, right? Like, especially like company culture, like having a team that actually believes in helping women and, you know, diverse people. So I think having a company atmosphere that, you know, an open-minded atmosphere where we can all have like a discussion, have like a program that you know offers mentorship, right? That's one of the things that we talk about. Have a plan for people to, you know, have a plan that would help them achieve their goals. So if their goals is to be a manager, well, let's set up a plan for that, right? So just having a company structure where everybody can feel comfortable approaching people and saying, hey, I don't feel comfortable with this, or I wish we did more of this. You know, have more, maybe, you know, once a month we have a discussion about, you know, how's everybody feeling? Like, have you had any experiences outside of work or in the workplace? And just being more open, you know, with the culture in the company, I think would be a starting point to helping people.
And I just want to add, because it was in that article that I read yesterday, and she actually put some actionable items in there for a company to do in order to increase allyship and support for women. And it was just 3 simple things, but I think a lot of companies don't implement them as much as they should. And the first one was about basically having a discussion where women kind of relay their concerns, the microaggressions, the things that they face in the workplace, and just having the men just listen. And then having another talk where you have the men really just talk amongst themselves about everything that they heard, what they think, things that they can do to change. And the last discussion was bringing them all together to kind of affect some change within the company, to understand both sides and points of view. And so I think with any group, women, LGBTQA, BIPOC, I think having those discussions, being frank and open without thinking that retaliation will happen, and seeing that you're actually putting in the work to kind of change the overall work environment by these 3 simple steps, I think are definitely ways we can kind of start mitigating systemic inequalities, or just kind of things that happen in the classroom and the workplace. Like me, I'm a Black woman, you know, but with a PhD, I have a privilege, I have an education, and I recognize that, and I know that. And, you know, with my personality, I'm maybe more confident, a little bit more, you know, upfront than other people. I recognize that. So I have to use my voice sometimes when I see that these things are happening. But using my privilege and identifying things in areas that I don't know. I didn't know what neurodivergent was, and maybe till a year ago. I didn't know, you know, there could be other things outside of sometimes my own little bubble of what I'm in. But learning about different disabilities, learning about transgender, learning about different pronouns, all of this is a learning process. And I think once we educate ourselves, we can really start to affect some sort of change.
And I just want to add too, when Eduardo started talking about like policies and enacting like straight up policy to help. So as women, we talk a lot about motherhood and maternity leave and all of these things. And I also want to bring up with the intersectionality that I was talking about with men and women. Why can't we normalize paternity leave? Why do we not? Why is it that when a woman gets pregnant, you know, it's she's done, whatever. But when a man announces that he's having a baby, it's congratulations, whatever. They don't care because they think he's going to be back in 3 days after she gives birth. We need to normalize these things because that should help men too. I hope you guys all want to be with your babies for a little bit. Like,
oh yeah. My God, Chloe, you are hitting on exactly what I wanted to follow up with Dr. Corey and V saying, like getting the stigma from maternity leave, gone, and then talking about paternity leave, right? Like, Europe, at least most countries over there, are so far ahead of the United States in terms of maternity leave. It's ridiculous. Like, I can't believe that we still have, well, I mean, I can believe it, but I can't believe that there's still companies that, don't offer the full benefits of maternity leave and even considering paternity leave. Like, yes, I just resonate so highly with what you're saying. And I don't have kids yet, right? It's going to be a minute before that happens. But yeah, I want to take that time off of work too. I want to spend time with my little chubby guy or, girl, whatever it's going to be.
I love it. I love it. And I know someone, I have a personal acquaintance who's at a company that if you are both working for the same entity, the paternity leave and maternity leave are linked because, they don't want to lose both of you for that long. And I think that's ridiculous because you're two humans and you shouldn't be linked because you're married or having a child together. So of course he was like, well, I'm going to give all the time to her because she just, birthed the human. So she needs to take more time off. But it was so ridiculous to hear that, I think that company probably thought like, oh yeah, we're doing something good. We're making it so that they can both take time, but it's just it's a hit and miss.
Yeah, I do have to get running in a couple of minutes. So I did want to touch on our next question before I had to get out of here. And yeah, Chloe, if you could just introduce that real quick so I get the wording right on that one.
Yeah, the next question was, what actions can we take to mitigate these systemic inequalities for women, LGBTQ, BIPOC professionals in STEM, like the wage gap, lack of women, upper management representation, all those things?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what I said before on the hiring conversations of just, wanting to hang out with people, right? We need people who are having the right mentality. And I'm defining right mentality as everyone in this panel here of bringing people in just to elevate the voices that need to be elevated to bring us all to equality, right? Like men, women, everyone, everywhere. Some of the things like it's so important, right, that we have those role models in the places, especially from the youngest point, right? And we are starting to see a change with that really recently. And this is what a scientist looks like, right? Or this is what an engineer looks like. So now we have young kids, especially. I'm going to shout out Emily Calandrelli, who hosts because My New World is science communication, so she's a host on Netflix, and now there's young girls see a female scientist, or a female engineer, a female in STEM. So the more people that we can get into the STEM profession in general, then we need to elevate them. So then our youth can see what they want to be. I mean, one of the examples from my industry, right, is like looking up to want to be an astronaut, and for forever, it was just like white men that were astronauts. So, young girls or people of color did not believe, some of them, they didn't have a role model they could resonate with. So that is, to me, why it's so important to get the diversity inclusion of everyone. And to really wrap it up here, because I know I'm going on a little soapbox here for the end. Some of the things that I'm doing to really help out with that I mentioned earlier was Takeover Tuesday on my Instagram, where I open it up every Tuesday to my stories. I trust all these people. I give them the password to my account. They come in, they post stories, and I don't have, a million followers. I think I'm like at 18,000 right now. And then some of the people who've come on the platform have had a lot more followers, like 50,000 followers, but my 18,000 may not have been exposed to this amazing female or BIPOC person in STEM. And I want to elevate that voice, right? So just trying to use, like I've said earlier, my privilege and my position. The more I can grow, the more I can bring people with me. And that's what I'm really trying to do. So I do.
Is so important, Kevin.
Say that again, V?
Normalization is so important. Thanks for doing that. And I know Eduardo does Women in STEM Wednesdays too. Those are some really great initiatives, y'all.
Yeah. Thanks, V. All right, so I am getting out here, but you can find me. It's over here at Kevin Jada Bruhn on Instagram is where those Takeover Tuesdays come in, and then a place called Space on YouTube is where I make my own videos about space and science. So this panel was amazing. Huge shout out to Chloe for moderating, Engineer Gals for putting it on, and all the rest of the panelists here. You guys are amazing, and have a good rest of the discussion.
Nice to meet you,
care.
Kevin.
Bye,
Yep.
Kevin.
Bye.
To continue what Kevin said, yeah, normalization is so important. So I think I'm the youngest one in this panel. Growing up, like, I don't know why there were only just like shows about being an artist or a singer or like, you know, Hannah Montana or something. I am just waiting for the time. Like, I'm so excited that Bindi Irwin has her own show now. That's amazing. You know, just like, it's so simple, so small. Women news anchors. I loved watching Robin in the mornings. Like, I love doing those things, and they're so small, but so impactful. It means, you know, like at companies, making sure women are in the videos that are showing the demos of the technology. Or why does it always have to be a male voice demoing? Can it be a woman's voice demoing? Very small things that end up making a difference, and it plays into your subconscious over years and years of seeing the same thing. And it's not like, I'd actually like to say that, you know, it's not even about right versus wrong, because in the world, all of our perspectives are valid based on our experiences. I'm sure that people have felt and believed the things that they do because of an experience, you know, that they had. But it's about understanding everyone's experiences as best as possible, or being, you know, as open and receptive to listening to that, and then changing your behavior based on that. Like me just even saying that I am like, cause I'm queer, I'm neurodivergent, I'm basically disabled. Like, there's so many things, but I had, you know, inside me, I was like, but I am an Asian woman in STEM and I benefit. And my culture always uplifts like women to either, you know, be a doctor or, you know, an engineer or something like that. Right. Or otherwise it's get married, but still, it's about realizing that you can be at a weird intersection of privilege and marginalization, as Corey was saying earlier. And once we realize that within ourselves, like, again, it's intersectional. You can be one thing and be another. Once we realize and acknowledge that within ourselves and acknowledge that within other people, I think that's going to be a huge, huge thing. It's not about comparing, oh, like school to this school or that school to that school. It doesn't make sense. There's no reason for it to be like that, because all of our experiences are so different.
V, oh my God, I'm like trying not to scream. Yes, yes. It's like when you were talking about the experiences, I don't know if any of you are on TikTok. I've kind of like left TikTok because I don't know, I can't do TikTok. But like the comments, like I'll make a stupid 10-second video about something a contractor said to me in the field, and it's like, well, my sister's a female engineer and nothing like that's ever happened to her, so it must be a lie. Like, are you going to tell someone that got mugged on the street, like, well, my cousin's never gotten mugged, so you must have not actually gotten mugged? Like, listen to people's experiences. If 2 out of 100 women are being, you know, if that's happening to them, it's wrong. Like, we need to change it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to happen to 100 out of 100 people for it to be wrong. Like, that. Passion, the passion. We're already into it, so let's just throw the question: how important is, and for this audience and for you 4 people, obviously this is, you all can answer this, how important is diversity and inclusion to you, and what steps are you taking towards diversity and equity for women, LGBTQ, and BIPOC in STEM? And you all are doing amazing things, so we'll hear from all of you. Let's start with Dr. Corey Grayson.
Yeah, so it's important, right? I think it's literally been proven. If you have a more diverse workforce or a diverse team, you will get better, you know, results or higher productivity. And so that's just a fact. So why not have that? Why keep perpetuating the same thing over and over again? And having people hire the same people that look like them, that come from the same backgrounds? I mean, not only is that just kind of being very cyclical in the system, but it's boring. Who wants to just always just see them or just like just that one little dot? Like, let's shake things up. Let's get people who are older, younger, maybe just has a certain disability versus don't. We all have these things that make up who we are and these different life experiences that can definitely add to a person, to a workplace. And in terms of, academia, it's a fight we're always fighting, right? Talking about diversity and inclusion, especially on an academic level and about these schools. I mean, Yale just got that lawsuit dismissed about affirmative action. And even when people think about affirmative action and like it's really doing a disservice when you're saying, oh, you only got here because of this initiative. But in actuality, it's kind of trying to put me on an equal playing field versus these counterparts who literally go here because they're legacy, not even because they're smart. I mean, look at the school scandal. We won't even go there. But it's literally about creating more of a diverse and, inclusive environment. So once you have diversity, so getting different people in the door. And the next thing is to create an inclusive environment. So necessarily, what does that look like? Are you aware of all these different terms? Are you aware your students have these different backgrounds? Are you culturally competent enough to have these conversations and not to assume? I mean, even now, as like, a postdoc, there's not a lot of Black postdocs in America, point blank, period. And so we try to create community amongst ourselves. But I remember one postdoc saying that his advisor was like, oh, you have like the Asian mafia and you have the white mafia and then he just got to the one Black postdoc and he's like, well, you're like the American mafia, I think. I don't know. And so just to have, like, that's not making a very inclusive environment where you're singling out someone. So just understanding the words that you use, the verbiage, having that cultural competency is definitely ways that you can do it. Now, in my own life, it's really about just kind of redefining the image of STEM and what that looks like. So really, for me, it's just like uplifting all different types of people in these different spaces and just showing that, women can be scientists, people of color, minorities, it doesn't matter. We're in the field and we're here taking up space. So I help run Women Doing Science, which is an Instagram page. Right now, our followers just keep going, but we literally feature women from all over the world. We're literally international, and we're just trying to keep that growing. We have a Wonder Grant, which will fund BIPOC women to go to different conferences, and so trying to affect that change. STEM Noir, which is for Black women in STEM, creating a space for us where we can talk about research, but also have a holistic and like kind of wellness component aspect to it. Black in Cancer, which is another initiative I'm a part of, where we're trying to kind of dispel the myths that people have about cancer, but kind of educate and also strengthen our networks between cancer patients, survivors, and just researchers overall. And then lastly, the STEM Success Summit. And GM was actually a major sponsor of the STEM Success Summit, where a few of us STEM, influencers, we got together and we put on a conference, had over 2,000 people from 50 different countries come and listen to people like Tatiana Ali talk about her STEM education experience, as well as Ida Sandhu, who did Beyonce's site, her virtual reality site. I mean, so just exposing people to different offers or different things that can happen, all different ages, all different spectrums, is just kind of what I do personally to help kind of increase diversity and inclusion in STEM, but also in my work life, trying as much as I can to be like, hey, I'm here, I'm a chemical engineer now, and I'm trying to change it as much as I can.
That's amazing. V, you want to follow up?
Yeah, so I think a really important part of the conversation is to, like, with STEM, as I mentioned earlier, is such a many different important industries in that umbrella. It's the future, as we all know. And if we think about, Apple, if Apple didn't make that zoom in feature, think about how many people wouldn't be able to properly use an iPhone. Not only are they losing out on money, but they're losing out on the opportunity to develop a product. Just because I'm in tech and I'm in tech startups specifically, developing a product is so important to having, like, you need a diverse team behind the product. You need people who may know what it's like to be disabled, who may know what it's like to be of different races, or maybe even just someone who has a lisp or someone who has a different accent can be so beneficial to the way that Apple dictation works. There are so many different examples of this, but basically, and this is like, you cannot argue this, that if you have a diverse team building a product, the product will be able to serve the diverse people who might or should use it. You cannot create cutting edge technology without people who understand the needs of people who need the cutting edge technology. It's like, you know, the people who develop amazing like biomedical tech, right? Those people sometimes have family or themselves who are suffering through those medical conditions. It's a passion thing for them too. So I think that's also really important with giving people equal opportunity to achieve their dreams. Like being someone who only realized they're disabled once they were 23 was really weird, because I was like, look how privileged am I? You know, like look how privileged am I? You know, made it this far and all this stuff with the support that I had currently. But there are people who are disabled exactly like me who never got any of the opportunities that I did just because they were labeled with this thing from the get-go, and they're not able to do a lot of things because of that. You know, so I think it's just very important that we remember that diversity doesn't help just the people who are diverse. Diversity helps everyone.
Yes, and you basically summed up one of my favorite things to say in any kind of talk, is that people in STEM, we build and create the world. So if we want to build and create a world for everyone, then everyone needs to be represented in STEM, because different backgrounds, different thoughts, different ways of upbringing, different parts of the country, parts of the world, we all bring these different aspects into a product or a company or anything. And it's so important to be able to. I use the example, I didn't even know this. I was researching for a presentation like a week ago, that the little lines on your F and J keys on your computer are because of someone who was like a little hard of seeing. And they were like, you know, the way you put your hands on the computer, if we had like a little braille mark on those two keys, it would allow people to like place their hands correctly the first time. The tiniest thing that makes life so much easier for someone. So yes, V, yes. Andre, do you want to continue?
Yeah, so a little bit of a way of how I'm trying to move the needle as far as diversity. So I try to get all type of different engineers all across the country who are pretty much excelling in their engineering career. And then on the side, you also have a side business. So something I realized when I was in college, so a little backstory, I was a barber in college, and I used to cut like crazy, to the point to where like I used to be hiding from people. I used to have to cut one day because my schedule would just get so crazy to just cut, and I would cut from like 10 in the morning all the way to like 2 at night, and I will always be booked. And in the process, I was like, so many people like know me just for barbering. Like I would literally just go eat something, and people, oh, I know you like the barber that's like that make YouTube videos. So kind of in the process, I started recording my whole process of me cutting, and it like really took off. Like I just did like a sponsorship video. I'm sponsored by like quite a few companies, but I never even like cared about becoming a barber or anything like that. I just ended up slowly developing a skill. But like ultimately what I always wanted to do was make a tech channel or an engineering channel, and just make one that was like really diverse, to have all type of different people from different engineering backgrounds. And on top of that, to have somebody who's Black, who's kind of teaching people how to create tech. Like that's something that like you rarely see when you go to YouTube. And when I was a freshman, I will kind of like look up different people as far as being engineers and tech, and people, you know, more so even creating tech, because you rarely see a lot of Black people that's actually creating stuff. And I didn't see like anybody. And I wanted to start when I was a freshman, but I was like, let me not start as a freshman, and then my senior year, I look back and be like, dang, I really said that, or I messed up here and there. But like, now that I have all of this validation, it's really easy for me to go in and create and make. And so in the midst of me like creating stuff all the way down to just a simple LED, all the way up to literally making voice commands on stuff and creating legit prototypes of stuff that some people never seen before in their life. I wanted to also throw into the mix different people across the country, like I mentioned, that was like really into like engineering, their specific field, and on the side they could promote their own side business. Because let's be honest, like us engineers, we really smart. We have all type of side business, side things going on top of being an engineer. Like it's really crazy, like the stuff that we really have going on. I was like, let me make a light of that, because there will be a lot of people. When I was in my college, I went to HBCU, which was geared towards engineers too. A lot of them will come up to me and say, yo, like, I like your channel. Like, can I be on your channel? You know, like that. We go to the same school. And I always be like, no, if it's not about barbering, I'm not going to put you on the channel. But I'll just be honest with them, because it started getting crazy. So then I just started thinking like I could really flip this whole thing and make an engineering channel, and all of my engineering friends that's asking me, they're talented in other ways on top of being an engineer. So I was like, how about I'll actually put you on my future channel that I'm gonna end up making. So majority of my friends that's on my new channel, I done already interviewed them. They talked about their experience in like chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, women who was in chemical, mechanical, electrical, and then they also throw in like the side business, like fashion, like open up their own salons and all type of different stuff like that. And I just think it's extremely sick, and I wanted to make it to be a channel that like something that I would want to watch. I'll come across and see like, okay, this person is black, white, Asian, all types of different races, but they also are an engineer just like me. Because everybody have that little connection when it's like, oh, y'all have the same major, no matter how old you are. Like you'll literally be 30, you'll just have some type of connection where you'll bump into somebody who's like, oh, like you're an electrical engineer too. Oh, like I did electrical engineering too. You'll have that connection automatically. And then you instantly just want to see like what all do they have to say? Like how was their like whole career path? And then like, oh, like they have something else going on. You know what? I'm kind of willing to maybe even invest into what they have going on after hearing their story. So that's really what I wanted to do, and really take it serious. I try to drop videos once a week, and like I said, also like I try to mix in creating tech, creating inventions, patent inventions, creating royalties off the little things that you create, and getting those royalty checks. Like there's a lot of people that don't even know about that. Like you can literally come up with an idea. You don't have to create it physically, but if you can come up with an idea in your head and patent it, you can literally get royalty checks for life off of something that you came up with. Like little stuff like that, people don't have a clue about. I really just want to educate people like about that realm of it, because a lot of people that think like you'll be surprised, but there's some people that are like, oh, I'm such and such race, or I'm a girl, da, da, da. Nobody will take me serious if I try to say I want to create an invention or something like that. So I just want to shed that light. That's pretty much it.
That's so dope.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're doing an amazing job.
Thanks.
Eduardo.
Yes. Yeah, so for me, I just gotta go back to the reason I do everything, right? Like especially coming from where I come from. I'm from the city of Santa Ana. It's very there isn't much diversity. It's very there's a lot of Hispanic here. So me going to college was like getting out of a bubble, right? And that's when I started noticing that I needed diversity, right? Myself, just because I need to like get to know people when everybody was so different in college. So it all started, that's like the first thing I noticed, like the importance of diversity. And then also like networking, right? Being able to, connect with people, and then they turn out to be like great people for your future. So one thing I wish I had in my college days was an internship, for example. And now that I'm starting my company, I'm trying to make it easy for people to have internships. Like I literally have an open shop for students to come and learn like technical skills so they can gain confidence, right? So yeah, so the reason I do things like it goes back to my experience, like what I didn't have, and now I'm trying to make it happen for people, make it easy. So we have interns here, and they're learning, and and now I'm talking to more people like you guys, and you guys are getting to know me, and new opportunities come up. You guys are educating me about all this. I'm trying to hire people, right? And you're telling me, well, this is how we see it, and I'm like, I'm moving so fast sometimes that I don't pay attention, right? But ultimately, I just want to make it easy for everyone to gain confidence, and it's always been in me, right, to try to make a difference. And I use my engineering memes guy page to make people laugh, right? It starts with that too, and then I connected it with like STEM Media and Papaya Tutor, and we're starting this series now. And now it's turning into this thing. So I'm like, it's just expanding on, just helping people, right? Starts with giving internships, and then hopefully they want to work with us and just give people opportunities. That's really what I'm doing. It's just having open doors for people to come and learn. Yeah, you guys are all welcome to come by.
I love that. So for me as well, you know, social media has been such an amazing place. And I know my catchphrase is breaking stereotypes and stomping out stereotypes and all that. But I've also, my original passion before social media was even a thing for me specifically was K through 12 outreach, because I believe that like these stereotypes, they start so young. And I remember it really like hit me when I was with my colleague who is also a female engineer, and we went to a kindergarten class and we did like a slime activity with them, talking about engineering. And I remember at the end, the teacher was like, were you guys surprised that the engineers came to hang out with you today? And this little girl, kindergarten, was like, yeah, I thought it was going to be 2 boys, but it was 2 girls. And it was just like, wow, like you're in kindergarten, you already somehow have it shoved down your throat that you can't be an engineer because you're a girl. And it's my passion to, you know, that's why I love to show up in pink and skirts and heels to do presentations to kids. And, you know, even if that's not their thing and they don't love pink like me, at least they see something different than they're used to seeing, right? So thank you all for being here. So I think we're at the closing remarks now. So if you guys want to all we'll go in the same order that we just did. So Dr. Corey Grayson, V, Andre, then Eduardo, talk about where people can find you, you know, let them know.
Yeah, sure. So you can find me at Team Corey, TEAMKORIE, basically on all social media platforms. I made sure because I wasn't trying to do 5 different names. Not going to happen. But you can also find me on my website. I have a link tree as well. You can look me up by my 2 papers. If you ever want to talk about science, let me know. But yeah, I truly enjoyed the panel, and thank you so much for having me.
You can find me on Instagram as Vishakha Mallya, which is right there. And you can also find me on Twitter as my_Desi girl. I'm on Clubhouse as well under the same username, and so is Corey. I know we've done rooms together. I was actually going to say Corey has amazing rooms, and you should go follow her on that if you are looking to be inspired and empowered, specifically as a woman or a minority in STEM. But yeah, that's her plug. But if you want to support me in my journey of funding myself through school and whatnot, I have an OnlyFans. That's onlyfans.com/my_DESI girl. And if you don't want to sub to my OnlyFans and you just want to support me, my Venmo is also this username. Cool.
Hey, y'all. My YouTube is right here. So just hit me up on YouTube if you guys want to see any content related. If you want to hit me up on Instagram, if you have any anything you want to tell me, anything you want to let me know regarding to engineering, I get hit up all the time as far as, hey, Andre, do you know how to make X, Y, and Z? Do you have some code to actually make this do X, Y, and Z? And I'll just send it to people in most cases. And also, I mean, like, if you're an engineer and you graduated, of course, and you're pretty much in the field and you have a side hustle, like you meet those criteria, I'll definitely like for you to be on my channel, and I could help promote your stuff for the free. Just let me know. And right now, so far, I'm pretty much booked all the way until end of July. So I may not start back until maybe it'll be a while from now. But I mean, I could still add a whole nother list. And in general, I have 2 seasons that's done that have pretty much 25 people. And I'm about to start another season. It's going to be season 3, where I'm going to have like another 15 people. And so far I started 3 videos of 3 people, and trying to do one with Eduardo after this, if you're not too tired. But yeah, so just hit me up on Instagram. If you want to see any like of the latest tech stuff, I post like some of the latest tech stuff that that's like not even coming out yet. I recently posted the Hummer, which I'm pretty much working on at GM right now. We just gave it to LeBron, and he was in it telling all the specs and all of that good stuff. It's going to be the first fully electric truck. So yeah, if you want to keep up with any of that cool technical heat type of content related to STEM or related to tech and electrical engineering, just follow the channel. Check me out.
All right. Yeah. So everybody, again, Eduardo. You can find me on Instagram at EngineeringMemesGuy. Also, you can find my company at Loomis Automation. We're located in Orange, California. Anybody out there watching and interested in automation, feel free to reach out to us and see how we can help you out, gain some technical skills, and hopefully make you part of the team. Yeah, I'm mainly active on Instagram, but I do have like TikTok for Loomis Automation, and I post a lot of cool stuff that we do, like machines that we design, electrical systems that we put together, and we also do software. So we do a lot of machine software. Anyways, yeah, check us out at Loomis Automation.
Awesome. And I am Chloe, the engineer right here. I'm pretty much that on every platform. The two platforms I really like are Instagram and Clubhouse. I'm also the same on TikTok, but I'm not as active on TikTok. And Stomping Out Stereotypes also just became a Clubhouse club. So please follow that club. And if you have any ideas for how to bust stereotypes in STEM business and talk about femininity and what that means, please reach out to me. I'd love to have you on my Clubhouse club. But that's it for us. I did want to talk about some resources. We did go into some major topics today. So some resources for sexual harassment and sexual assault are RAIN, the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization. And for the hotline, you can call 800-656-HOPE. The National Suicide Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. You can get free 24/7 support by texting HOME to 741-741. An organization called 7 Cups of Tea, which is an emotional support group that you can chat anonymously and for free. Women's Law, a helpline that provides legal information, referrals, emotional support for victims, is www.hotline.womenslaw.org. And I believe that these will be in the description, and they are linked in the YouTube live description if you need them. So thank you to all.
I wanted to say that my DMs are available to any survivors or anyone going through sexual assault or harassment in the workplace or in your regular life, as I am also a survivor of assault in the home as well. So just please reach out to me on any of my social media platforms. I would love to be assistance of you, and I've been through it myself, and I hope you're okay.
Thank you, V. And thank you all for being here. Thank you all who tuned into the live, and hope to see you around on all of our different platforms. So thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.